Hi. So this video is going to be on my definitions of attachment and authenticity and what I have experienced with it. I would say that my definition of authenticity is very similar to Friedrich Nietzsche's. And this is his definition. I don't know if you can hear it or not, hopefully.
Without religion, which requires accepting predetermined virtues, eternal valuations as unquestionably true. In living authentically, a person elevates himself or herself above the mass culture to transcend the limits of conventional morality, thereby personally determining what is and what is not good and bad, without the predetermined virtues of conformity, on account of which we hold our grandfathers in esteem. An authentic life is achieved by avoiding the herding animal morality. 11. To stand alone is to be strong and original enough to initiate opposite estimates of value, to transvaluate and invert eternal valuations. 11. Common to the existential perspectives of Kierkegaard and Nietzsche are the responsibilities they place on the individual to take an active part in the shaping of one's beliefs, and then to be willing to act on that belief. 10.
Okay. So, in my own words, what he's saying is regardless if space is held for you or not, to be strong enough to do the right thing. Not the right thing based on a book, not the right thing based on social norms, the right thing guided by your heart. Letting your heart lead you to determine what is right and wrong. As children, if you want to check out the playlist that I have on my channel called The Abandonment of Self, it's going to be the very last section on my channel. There is videos that explain how the abandonment of self evolves and why authenticity these days is rare. So choosing ourselves over a bond. And if you go a bond, so attachment. Attachment can be defined as a deep and enduring emotional bond between two people in which each seeks closeness to feel more secure when in the presence of the attachment figure. So when we're children and our lives depend on our parental figures for stability, for security, for to stay safety, to stay alive. When we are told no, or we are told to do something that we may not agree with, or doesn't feel right in our heart, we will choose attachment over authenticity because that is where we survive. My story is a little bit different. I was on my own at 13. My security, my stability, my safety was already gone by the time I was at 13. So when I got told to pick it, I was never looking back. In a way, I am super grateful for this because I got to experience me. I got to figure me out, and not in the easiest way. I'm not going to say my life was easy, but if I had a chance to go and do it over again, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want it to happen any other way. I got to see right and wrong, and I led by my heart space. I didn't make a lot of mistakes, but the mistakes I did make, I learned very quickly. You gotta, and that came from being mindful of who I am and the environment I was in. It allowed me to learn how to shift with social norms and what the society around me was doing, what was considered normal. Um, but it also allowed me to be versatile and change when I needed to. When something felt wrong in my heart, I would always follow my heart space. I didn't have any attachment to want to pick over until, like relationships get into that. And that's when I learned about different forms of abuse, yada, yada, yada. But that's not what this video is about. We very much so stay in situations that are unhealthy for us because since we were young, we chose attachment over authenticity. And we have to teach ourselves authenticity, and we have to teach ourselves how to choose ourselves again in adulthood because we don't do it as a child. I don't believe the way that I did it is the only way, and I would never do that to my child. I would hold the space for my child to say how they feel, and whether that be telling me I'm wrong or that they don't appreciate something, I'm totally willing to listen to that. Children so oftentimes are overpowered by their parents. And I get it. We all have long days. They are little beings that have opinions. And without that space being held for them to be safe to express themselves, how are we supposed to guide them in emotional regulation? They don't know what they're feeling, and that's our job to teach them what they're feeling. I have an emotional wheel on my wall throughout my house everywhere because I'm still learning how I'm feeling. This is an ongoing process and observation of the way that I feel, and sitting in it is crucial to me being able to help others. This is authenticity to me. And when I got involved in religion, not that I believe in God, whatever you want to call it, purple monkey dishwasher. I found that leading from my heart space became more difficult because what was said in the Bible, 90% of it I agreed with. The parts that I didn't agree with is the fact that it is fear instilling. How are you holding space for a child when you are instilling fear in them? That's not what holding space is. Holding space for your child to develop authentically is using the opposite of fear. It comes from a place of compassion, unconditional love, and understanding, wanting to understand them so that they can understand themselves. It takes patience, it takes time, and it takes real love and emotional availability to cultivate this kind of upbringing. And one step at a time, we're getting closer and closer to that. And yeah, the reason why it's rare is not only is it rare among people because of our upbringing, it's rare in the workplace. People don't tend to like authenticity. They don't want the truth. And they will get rid of you if it's inferior to how they're feeling because you've hit their ego. So you got to learn to communicate with tact. You got to learn to position yourself accordingly. And unfortunately, a lot of people, everyone, I think at least once, falls down because or takes two steps back because of authenticity. This is a lesson that is learned, and people usually conform and they stop being authentic because it's rejected. That is where we are at in evolution. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging that. However, to feel that I should be something other than what I'm not is really unfortunate. And in school, so this is my story. So in school, I didn't have a whole lot of friends. And no one ever said to me, like, that's okay. Instead, I felt super awkward during the breaks in between because I felt that I should be with a bunch of people instead of sitting there alone. And I had a girl walk up to me and say, oh, since your friend moved away, you always just sit here alone. That's rather sad. And then walks away. So not only was I feeling like I should have been with people, I didn't have the acknowledgement from my parents or from anybody actually that would have said, hey, just so you know, the fact that you're sitting alone is a superpower. And you don't have to feel awkward about that. You can be whoever you want to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't let these people make you believe that you should be in another position with a bunch of people because you're okay. That would have changed my life in so many ways if someone would have just said those few words to me. Because instead of me feeling like I'm an outcast, I would have felt like I belonged to myself. And belonging to myself is the best kind of belonging I could give myself. Like I don't know how to explain it. When you belong to yourself and you cultivate that within you authentically, because you've got to pick what you would think is right and wrong. You let your heart guide you. When you let your heart guide you, you actually end up aligning a lot with religion without it being religious. It's just something that naturally happens in our evolution. Religion is great. It brings a lot of contradiction as soon as the fear is instilled. Um, yeah, I hope this explains what my opinion of authenticity and attachment is and why it's rare. If you have any more questions, please let me know.